Okay, so let's start. This whole webinar is all about teaching in Asia, insights and experiences that you can gain and have. And Ellie, our lovely Ellie, has had experience teaching in Asia. She's been to Thailand and Vietnam, and we just thought it'd be a really nice opportunity to talk to her and get some insights of her experience and anything that she can share with you about teaching in Asia. So Ellie, tell us everything. What was your journey to start with?
So the way that I actually got the placement and the job and everything was I was on an Angloville program and I was like, I love teaching, I love traveling, and I don't want to just go back home. So what's next for me? And that's how I found out about teaching in Asia. So I was kind of reading, so it was via a different company. But I was like, this opportunity sounds amazing. And I think I'd kick myself if I didn't try it and research into what this could be. So that's pretty much why I did it. I just wanted a new opportunity and I knew I had a passion for teaching. So that's pretty much why I decided Asia.
Okay, and before that, how did you get into teaching?
Um, that is such a good question. I initially started my work placement in a school,
Hmm.
and from then, because I've always been a sociable person, and I was like, well, how do I translate this into a job where the biggest thing you've got to be is a decent communicator, and you've got to have a passion for what you do. So I first started work placement in a school, and then from then on, it was kind of like, this is something I really enjoy. And then COVID hit, and I
Hmm.
was like, okay, the schools in England are shutting down. Where's still open? And Poland. And that's how I came to Angloville. And that's kind of how the story began.
Okay,
So
sorry. So you started a work placement, started to teach in England, then you found Angloville, and what was the journey with Angloville?
So, my brother actually found out about Angloville, and
Mhm.
initially I was like, I don't want to do it. I work in schools throughout the year. I don't want to go and spend my summer holidays, teaching. I want to relax. And then he was like, well, if you don't do it, like, what else are you going to do with your summer? Like, the world is on lockdown.
Mhm.
Um, so I came to Poland. I signed up for 3 weeks, studying my TEFL as well. And I was just like, what's the worst that's going to happen? I know that I'm a social person. I know it's about teaching. I've never been to Poland before, never heard much about Poland. And I was like, if it's the worst thing ever, it's only 3 weeks of my life.
True.
And I fell in love with it.
You fell in
So,
love with Poland, and then you were TEFL qualified by the end of the 3 weeks at Angloville.
yep.
And how was that whole experience? Like, what did it teach you? What did you gain? How could you use that going forward?
Yeah. So, TEFL and the resources that the um, website and studying gives you is a really, really good, like, groundwork type thing. So it will teach you how to properly teach. It
Hmm.
will teach you how to make lesson plans and things like that. Um, so I think the TEFL studying is a really good um, first step into becoming qualified to teach English as a second language.
Hmm.
Um, but I think the brilliant thing with me doing it as I was working with kids is kind of like what I can now see how this textbook and all these resources are directly like the impact that it has. So I think the combination was really good because first I'd study it and learn it, and then I'd actually go and put it into practice. So yeah.
Amazing. And then what was the next step with that? So now you were TEFL qualified. So then how did you get, this opportunity in Asia? How did that come about? And how did the
So
TEFL help you as well? Like doing the TEFL with Angloville, how did it help you with the next step of getting yourself into Asia?
yeah. So to firstly apply for my placement, I had to be TEFL certified. And because that was the groundwork, and we would work towards our TEFL, which is a higher qualification, but you needed to be able to demonstrate that you were already experienced and you had a basic understanding of how to deliver lessons. And I wouldn't have been able to do my teaching in Asia without my TEFL and without that kind of foot in the door experience. So yeah, TEFL definitely opened up that opportunity to me.
Amazing. And just touching back on like being at Angloville and the teaching and the TEFL that you received there, what was that like? Like, did it give you the real life experience you needed to get yourself in Asia? Like, did you feel, having that on top of the online teaching with the TEFL was the combination you needed to get yourself over to Asia? Because I can imagine it's such a big jump,
Mhm. Yeah, so for anyone in here that's done an Angloville before, you'll know that Angloville is nothing like a school structured environment. So the TEFL, yes, it was giving me the grammatical points and things for speaking sessions, but all of this planning, marking, feedback, etc., I couldn't actually apply that to Angloville programs.
Mhm.
I applied that when I went to Asia, because that's when I was teaching kids from, kindergarten age all the way up to 25 years of age. So the TEFL then, I had the resources and almost the engine to be able to deliver these lessons, firstly professionally, but also I had the confidence. Like TEFL gave me the confidence of like, I know what I'm doing, and I know that this is the lesson theme, this is where I am, and how am I going to bridge these together?
Amazing. Okay. So tell us about like the journey of, how was it when you were actually out there then in Asia teaching?
Yeah, different to anything I've ever done before. I think from what I know about Asia online, from what I know about friends' experiences, I tried to go in as open-minded as I could. And I had certain expectations of what I thought it would be like, but Asia is just a different place. Like the landscapes are gorgeous. The ones that you see online, the ones that you see on back of postcards, none of that is fabricated. Like it is breathtaking.
Yeah.
And then when you're in the city centres, it's the complete opposite. It's pollution everywhere, busy, crowded. Everyone's going at a million miles an hour. So in regards to the teaching that was massively different was when I went to Vietnam, they don't have as many opportunities to speak to a native speaker and to learn from someone in which English is their first language. So these children would be like hoarded into the classroom. They'd be sharing like a two-person desk. There'd be 4 children on there, all like scribbling down anything and everything, recording things that I was saying so they could practice. But to them, my voice is going, I might need to get a locket. To them to have a native speaker with them for an hour or an hour and a half is a massive opportunity that they don't normally get in their daily lives. So it was kind of like everything I said, they'd soak it up like a sponge and revert back to it when they're studying.
Yeah, I can totally understand. And what about in terms of the students that came across when you were in Europe compared to the students in Asia? Like from our conversation that we had like yesterday, I found it really interesting how you were telling me the way you approached them, the way you adapted your teaching style, you kind of worked with the culture background of it all as well. It's just really different, as you can imagine, being out in Asia.
Yeah, so in Asia, it's like little things. It's like in, Poland or Europe,
Mm.
if you ask a question to the class and they all raise their hand and you point at one of them to answer, that's fine. But in Asia, that's like a sign of not disrespect, but it's a sign of confrontation. So you never point at a child. Little things like when you're dividing kids up into groups and say you're playing a game and you touch their heads. In Asia, the massive no-go, because in their culture, your head and your brain is the most important part of your body, and that is a sign of disrespect. But in teaching practice, keeping my instructions very short, very basic, like saying to the kids, okay, pair up, rather than stand up, find someone and find a space. It's just, okay, pair up, then do this, because they can't retain a lot of information and instruction. So one of them was keeping them very short and direct. The next thing was worksheets. Now, when and if you go and teach in Asia, having a worksheet is a godsend, because the children take such pride in their work. They don't like crossing out. They don't like messy work as such. So if you give them a worksheet, they will meticulously sit down and fill it in. And this doesn't even have to be a worksheet. You could give them a task or a poster, and they will sit there and they will be at it for as long as you give them, making sure that everything is correct and neat and in an orderly fashion. And they take pride, and they'll take them home, review them, put them on their walls, and use that as a revision tool.
Wow, that is very different, right? And how,
Yeah.
so how did you overcome, or what were the culture shocks or differences or expectations that you had?
Give me 2 seconds. I'm just gonna jump
Okay.
there. I'm gonna go lock it.
Okay, no worries. Whilst you do that, I should mention as well, if you do have any questions that you'd like to ask Ellie, feel free to drop it in the chat and I'll try to get them answered at the end of this session. And you're back.
That was like it was planned, that was.
Yeah, that was great.
So the culture differences. Firstly, the food in Asia is incredible. I thought someone was trying to get into my room then. Sorry. So the food is incredible, and they do like pho. They do like banh mi's, which are just sandwiches. They do like tubs of mango and fresh fruit, which is like 20p. Like everything is just fresh and cheap. And that was the other thing with Asia. You can go and get clothes tailor-made for like £5, £7, and they're good quality clothes. You can go on excursions. And I think we did like a 7-hour sleeper bus from one part of Vietnam to the other. It was like, I want to say 13 to £15. And you've got a bed, a curtain, blankets, water. So I'd say that was a massive difference to British transport and European transport. What else is a culture shock?
So how you said, like with the children in particular when you were teaching, maybe perhaps the level of English and the someone made a comment about the way more respectful to their teachers.
Yeah.
Did you think that was true?
100%. They almost look at you as like an encyclopedia. And because like I said before, they don't have this opportunity to converse with a native speaker. They get this opportunity and they treat it like almost like Willy Wonka's golden ticket.
Yeah.
The way that they engage with you is just takes your breath away. They are so passionate, and almost like you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. Like you give them one little piece of advice or grammar structure or anything, and they will just go and go and go. And, you know, in Asia, my voice is going.
Always.
There's it's like very focused on schoolwork and doing well. because then when you work, you then can look after your grandparents and your parents, etc. So these children would get up at 6:30 was their breakfast, and classes didn't start till at one school was 7:30 and the other school was 8:30. And they would be studying from the moment they finished breakfast until they started for the day. And then after, if they had a normal day, would finish at about 3:30, 4 o'clock. But they also had extra sessions, so the kids could potentially be learning from 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. and then they'd go and study. So their work ethic is just incredible.
Wow, that is yeah, very different. And teaching people who are so passionate and so switched on with education, was that quite challenging for you? Did you find that you had to be extra like switched on and, aware as a teacher?
Yeah, I definitely think so. But I also think like the one thing that every teacher wants is to see that you're making a difference. You
Yeah.
want to see their progression. You want to know on like the first day, they couldn't even tell you the name of their brother. And on the final day, they're speaking not fluently, but they're speaking with confidence about something they're passionate about. So to have children that genuinely wanted to learn, that then made me be a teacher, want to be a teacher, where that was reciprocated. I wanted them to learn. I wanted to prepare the best lessons that I could for those kids. I wanted to play games that I knew they liked. I wanted to give them resources that I knew they'd enjoy. So, yes, you do feel like you have pressure on your shoulders, but also when you're getting that positive behavior back, then you're like, right, here we go. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it feels really rewarding, I guess.
100%.
And I just took some pictures of Ellie here, as you can see. Also, how did you enjoy your life outside of teaching? Like, what did Asia give you in terms of just life and travel and things you got to do and see?
Yeah, so if we look at the picture on the left with the Buddha, that's in Bangkok. Picture in the middle on the bicycles,
Yeah.
that is in Ninh Binh in Vietnam. The picture at the top with the hands, that's in Sapa in Vietnam. At the, am I going too fast? Sorry.
No, 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 no. Can you see my hand there? I was just going like that.
Yeah. And then the picture at the bottom is in Bangkok.
Oh,
And
nice.
then the final one on the right, that little video of me being a bit of an idiot, was that was in the highest point in Vietnam. So when I was in Vietnam, we would work from Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
So we would then have 2 days off, Saturday, Sunday, to travel. So we did Ninh Binh, we did Hanoi, we did Sapa, which was our end of program trip. Some people went to the, I want to say it's the Paradise Beach, but it's basically the longest stretch of shore without water on it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Beautiful. And like I said, these landscapes are just breathtaking. And you can do this in your free time. And it's not a lot of money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very true. And I don't know if I can ask this, Ellie, but in terms of the wage you were having over there in teaching in Asia, was it what would you say about the wage? And like, did you have accommodation provided for you? Was
Yeah.
like what were the work hours, all that kind of logistic stuff? Could you
Yeah.
tell me?
So my contract was a volunteering contract, which meant our food and accommodation was included in trade for our work. But quite a few of my friends and people that I met out there were working in international schools. And if you're a native speaker or you're fluent in English, you know, you can make a nice salary. And you can also a lot of the children enjoy having extra lessons. So you can also get some extra pocket money through like private tutoring, etc.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about that. What are the opportunities out there in terms of private tutoring, private schools, government schools? Did you find many opportunities in that?
So I didn't private tutor anyone because I was studying for my TEFL and I had a very full timetable. But some of the girls I was with would take on extra sessions teaching privately, either in person or online. And it's as simple as they were walking down the street speaking in English and people were walking towards them in rural Vietnam. So we were in Ninh Binh. We were in Thai Binh.
Mm-hmm.
And people would ask them there and then for extra sessions and their contact details. So there is definitely an opportunity for private tutoring. There is also international schools,
Mm-hmm.
which they're all over, definitely Thailand, because I was in an international school in Thailand and I'm not too sure, but I'm sure that there are some in Hanoi.
Okay.
And the international schools are the schools that I would definitely recommend you go to because they really look, from my experience, they really look after their staff and they really value you. Not to say that other schools don't, but the teachers that you will work with are also in the same position as you. They're almost like an English or a Brit or an American or Australian
Mm-hmm.
individual teaching abroad. So you can also connect so well with other people whilst also teaching.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And what do you think in terms of actually I want to ask you the pros and cons of teaching in Asia mixed with the tips you would give for people thinking of heading out to Asia and teaching.
Okay, I'll start with the pros. Pros are it's a very hot country. So you will get a nice tan. You've got to wear baggy clothes because you will sweat and they will have one singular fan going around in the roof. So yeah, very, very hot. Like I mentioned before, the fulfillment that you get and the validation that you get from the children, I've never had a feeling like it before. So definitely that makes you want to get out of bed in the morning and teach, even when you're exhausted, even when you have lost your throat, lost your voice, you feel sick, you get up and do it for the kids because they give it you back. And again, just the landscapes, I think are nothing I've ever seen in England, definitely. So those are my pros. My cons are it's especially if you don't work in an international school,
Mm-hmm.
it's not as structured as the UK. So there would be multiple times that I would arrive at the school at 6:45 in the morning, 7 o'clock, to be told my class has been cancelled, or actually, Ellie, you're not going to that school to teach that. You're going to this school to teach this. And I've not prepared a lesson for that because that wasn't on my timetable. So that was a kind of drawback from someone who's taught in the UK and taught in, parts of Europe. It's very structured and you don't go away from the timetable. And if you do, there's repercussions. Next thing is the transport to the schools. So I wouldn't necessarily say this is a con, but you will get on the back of a motorbike at the schools I was in. Sometimes you can walk to the schools, sometimes you'll be driven to the schools. The majority of the time, because my schools were far away, I was on the back of a motorbike with a tiny little helmet in a very busy city as a 17, 18-year-old was swerving through the traffic, which for me wasn't a big deal. I don't mind it. But I understand how some people hadn't even factored that into their time in Asia.
Yeah.
And then lastly, when you're working with younger children in kindergarten, etc., you can't ever sit down because they can't retain a lot of information, like I said before. So you need your flashcards, you need your music on, you need to be doing your games, you need it to be animated, you need to find a way to engage these children, but you can't just sit and talk at them
Yeah.
because they're not going to be receptive to that. And as soon as you sit down at the front of the class, they're gone.
Yeah.
They'll then start being 4 and 5-year-olds, and they've checked out of the lesson. So for the duration of the lesson, you just got to go for it, which can be very tiring and taxing when you do it for a prolonged period of time.
Okay, that's good to know. And also, just touching on what you said, it's also dependent on where your placement is or the job opportunity. So sometimes, if you go for a job that's more rural, it's obviously going to be a different experience if you're like in the city or a bigger place or the type of school you go for as well. So it's all very dependent on that.
And sometimes the schools will have you live on property. So yeah, it just completely depends on the schools you go to. But one thing that I did forget was in a lot of these schools, there's no projectors, there's no whiteboards. If you're lucky, you'll get like a little chalkboard.
Yeah.
So you can't be planning PowerPoints or videos or anything to project. Everything has to be paper handed to them. So in one of my schools, we had like a waiting list for the printing.
Oh gosh. Oh wow.
Yeah. So it's one of those, it's you've got to be so organized and so on it. So then my tips for anyone here that is planning to go for it, do it. I promise you it'll be an experience that you can't compare to anything else. And you'll have such great memories, like challenging moments, but I think the good outweigh the bad, 100%. You'll be so appreciated. You'll honestly, I was walking down the streets and it's like I'm a celebrity, the biggest celebrity, just because all the kids know each other and they're like, that's my English teacher. And then everyone runs over to you. Be confident when you're going into a class. You're there for a reason. And if you don't believe in what you're going to teach, and if you don't, if you can't hold yourself comfortably at the front of the class, then, I had times when I had 40 or whatever, 10, 11-year-old Vietnamese children. And if you can't hold yourself, then you've lost the kids. So be confident and be personable with the kids. Be personable with the member of staff that let you in and is ushering you to your class. Because again, even for these people that you're not necessarily teaching, or like your teaching assistant, etc., to them, you don't, like little things like the printing, etc., they're going to be gold dust to you in little ways that you won't expect. So be personable and make time for absolutely everyone, because that could be their first ever interaction with a native speaker. And I had a lot of kids in Thailand who were saying that they thought American and British people were very like argumentative and macho because they'd seen movies. And they said, when they met us all, we are nothing like the way that they've seen online, in their home countries. And she said, this young girl said to me at one point, because we had like a 30-year-old teacher who loved going to the gym and staying active, she openly said she was terrified of him when we started the program, but because of this preconception that she had of, you know, Brits in general, and then as we got to know them, she, you know, adored all of us and cried when we were leaving. So be personable with everyone. And I think as well, you're already better than you think you are. Like, if you want to go and you've got the open mind of trying a new challenge, trying a new opportunity, giving your skills and your knowledge to other people, you're already better than you think you are. And there are a lot of opportunities in Asia to get to hire international staff and native speakers of English. So yeah, definitely in Vietnam, because the schools can have more children in them, and the private schools can charge more money when they have a native speaker. So they definitely need people.
Amazing. Okay, Ellie, let's do like a rapid fire of the questions because
Go on.
I'm a bit wary of time. First one I saw someone mention, do we need a degree to teach to teach in Asia?
I didn't have one. I don't have one, and I did it.
Okay, so that's answered that. Someone said, is it possible to go for a 3-month period or less?
Yes, I did a month in Thailand, 3 months in Asia, Vietnam.
Amazing. Someone mentioned, can you tell us about your day-to-day, like shift times, accommodations, where to eat, etc.?
Okay, so every day was pretty much different. But one of my more hectic days was get picked up at 6:30 in the morning, go to a kindergarten, teach 8 classes, which were 20-minute to 30-minute slots, then go back on a motorbike. They had lunch at 11 o'clock at my centre. So we'd have lunch. We'd then have 2 hours or an hour and a half to study for our TEFL. That was designated planning time, study time. And then I would go back to the school at about, I want to say about 2:30, to another either 4 to 6 kindergarten classes, and then back to the accommodation for dinner, and then you're off.
Amazing. Someone said, do you need a TEFL to be qualified?
I think every job that you apply for has a different criteria.
That's true.
I think Thailand are more strict than Vietnam are with your certifications. But again, I think it's what job board you go via. So in my experience, I'd say yes, you do need a TEFL, but that's not 100% accurate. I don't know.
That's true. Someone said, is it only Vietnam you went to in Asia?
I did Thailand as well. I did a month in Thailand.
So it's Vietnam and Thailand, both out of Ellie's experiences. Do you know anything about age restrictions, Ellie, about teaching in Asia? Someone mentioned it's pretty much for young people and that there's no one over 60. I'm not so sure about this.
Yeah, again, I'm not sure. I know that my group was younger, but I met people out there who were in their 60s and teaching, but they were residents of like Vietnam because they'd taught English there for so long and they were over 60. But again, not 100% sure on that.
And I feel like every teaching job and school that you go through and the agencies that you might use, also they have their own like restriction, criteria and requirements as well. So it really does depend on that.
100%. I think, in my opinion, they don't discriminate with age. It's about ability.
And experience as well.
Right.
Right. Okay, I think that's I'm seeing anyone else coming in. Should we have maybe last 2 questions?
Go on.
And then we can maybe wrap it up.
Yep.
TEFL qualified. Do you know if you can teach adults only?
I'm sure you can.
Sure, right? Just again, it depends the language school or maybe the agency that you go for. How was the work-life balance in Asia?
Just like a normal English job. In Vietnam, we were Monday to Friday. In Thailand, we would get a Wednesday and a Friday off, but we teach all through the other days. So yeah, also with the adult thing, you can definitely private tutor adults only. So if you wanted to go over to Asia and you just wanted to private tutor, you can definitely do that with just adults. But I'm not sure about schools.
Amazing. Okay, someone's asked, where can you find this recording after it finishes? We will be putting this up on our YouTube, and I'll try to send out a link to everyone who's here as well, so you can find it as well later on. Okay, I think that's a quick rapid fire of going through the question answers, and it wasn't too long. Good. With everything that we've gone through. And just, yeah, thank you everyone for tuned in. And I do want to say you need to check out our next month's webinar, because we will be talking about some new programs and products that Angloville have got coming out in Asia. Isn't that exciting? Yes, so we will be talking all about that and how Angloville is coming to Asia. And I saw a comment about that. Someone did ask me if Angloville is doing anything in Asia, and the question is yes, we are. So you need to come on next month and we will talk all about it. But thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Ellie, for your amazing experience, insights and everything. And I hope everyone had a really good time and it's not too long.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Ellie, and thank you everyone else. Have a nice
Thank you, everyone.
night. Bye-bye.